All right, what's going on, guys? It's November 1st, 2023. Gotta get my little things on here. There we go. And yeah, see where this thing goes. Okay, so we've got let's see, Breakpoint is coming down the pipe here. So that'll be pretty cool. It brings back pretty cool memories for me of going last year. Last year it was in Lisbon. This year it's in, was it Amsterdam? So that's kind of cool. And then, thank you, Lee. We also have the, oh, here comes Joey. We also have Barcelona coming in as well. Let's see if I can switch in. Loop you in. What's up, dog?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, out of coffee.
You're out of
See how we
coffee?
do.
Okay. What's going on, dude? Where are you? You're in San Fran? Are you, I forget if your location's always secret or not, but you're not in
Yeah,
Amsterdam.
plus or minus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not in Amsterdam for Breakpoint.
No. I am saving all of my energy for next week. So,
Okay. Oh, you're
get to
going
do.
to Barcelona.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do that party last year,
Oh
so
my God.
I get to go chat everyone up.
Yeah, that was super fun. I was just saying it like brought back really happy memories of just kind of cruising around, meeting all the people in Helium. And of course, last year was a different vibe. You know, now we're in really the depths of the kind of bare winter or whatever you want to call it. Um, and so, you know, last year it was we're just entering that, and people are like, hey, what's going to happen? But they're still super excited. And now, you know, there's plenty of blood and bodies in the streets, and not as exciting for like the crypto side, but for the IoT side, super exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just they've had a year to
I,
develop
I
hardware.
from what it sounds like, the vibe at Breakpoint this year seems good. From everyone I've sort of talked to that's over there right now.
Yeah,
And it's definitely that sort of like everyone here's a builder. So kind of a lot of cool stuff to show off and everyone's sort of building companies and doing their thing. Yeah.
doing the things. Yeah, let's see. We got some T-shirt to talk about. Noah famously wearing some shirt. What's going on there? What did I miss?
Yeah, well, so yeah, we've got a Bai and Noah over there right now.
Okay.
And Noah actually did a big piece of the opening keynote.
Yeah.
So, there's Totally up there. There's some, Helium, or sorry, Solana Foundation staff kind of doing their bits. And
Yep.
then they pulled up Noah, they pulled up Mert. So if you're on crypto Twitter, you know who Mert is.
Okay.
Um, just infamous, right?
Okay.
Um,
I don't know who it is,
uh,
but maybe I'm not. Yeah,
oh,
maybe
yeah.
I'm not on
Well,
Twitter enough.
we'll get into that. But yeah, so they pulled up Noah and they just kind of, he gave like a really good overview of like, why Helium moved to Solana, like what the experience was like, the sort of, I think, big bullet point that he like rounded out was you didn't hear about the Solana migration because it went basically seamlessly. Nobody was yelling about it on the standard press and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he gave like a really good talk as part of the opening keynote. It got a ton of attention, and he was wearing this MTV styled
Oh,
HNT shirt,
HNT. I've got one of
and
those. Shit. Yeah.
that just blew up feeds everywhere. Everyone's like, "I want that shirt." So
Huh. Huh.
that was fun to see. And then he gave another talk, I think this morning, and then I think Abai's giving a talk tomorrow.
Okay.
And there's kind of some other stuff mixed in there. Like I think they got pulled up on stage for some exchange, you know, did a HNT listing. Um,
Okay.
Daniel, why are you not on this call?
Dude, come on in, buddy.
Get
Yeah,
in
bunch of
here.
foundation team, cool vibes. Yeah, I'm guessing he means Solana Foundation because I'm pretty sure he knows the Helium Foundation people.
We've got some new faces on the Helium Foundation team that he's probably meeting. So
Okay.
Artie, who's on our comms team, is over
Oh
there
yeah.
right now.
Cool.
And then Nikki, who does all of our events coordination, is over there right now as
Okay.
well. Oh, and I think Waveform and Keenan is there. So
Oh, good.
yeah,
Right on.
yeah, good little set of folks over there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be good to get a trip. And I think the last I talked to Big Dave Akers, he was heading over there as well. And he ran Helium Analytics for a long time. So yeah, it'd be cool to
Awesome.
get them all meeting.
Well, I'm glad he's over there because I know he was excited about Helium House. So this is the oh, he's in a bus.
You know, okay, well, fair enough. I'm sure. I bet you got coverage. What's the big data thing that Travis is talking about?
On don't know.
Yeah, Solana. I love this picture, Travis. I don't know if I can make it any bigger.
He looks so professional.
Yeah,
Just
it's amazing.
uncharacteristic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah. I'll see you in a suit, Nick.
Yeah. Oof. I think I've got one somewhere in this house.
Yeah.
So let's see, that's Breakpoint going down, and then you're heading over for Barcelona next week.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're teeing up the talks. We're gonna do a press event. We've got a booth. We've got green metrics. We've got heliotics. We've got Disc 91. Our favorite Paul's gonna be over there.
Awesome.
So yeah, we should have like a really strong showing for Helium, and then there's some like cross pollination stuff with the Lore Alliance. We're doing a happy hour. Um, so yeah, try and get everyone.
Ooh, this
Oh
might
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
ugly for a second as I figure this out.
Sure.
There we go. Let's see if I can
Oh
get
boy.
you in here, Daniel, on the bus. Stand by. There we go. What's up, you
Hey.
big, beautiful human?
Hello guys, how is everyone doing? I don't know how my everything is working here. We are so the Solana Breakpoint has these buses that go from the Solana event into the downtown. We're
Okay.
gonna have like a Helios event right now. Helios is in the RPC node for Solana,
Yep.
and then later after at 8 p.m. Amsterdam time, we're gonna have a teleport, which another DePIN project. There's gonna be like an event organized by them. I just took the bus that takes it all the way to downtown Amsterdam. But it's cool, like the breakpoint. It's a good vibes, like especially if you walk around the developer zone, see like so many computers, so many people like building. It's exciting. I think there's a lot of cool things. Nobody really talking about the prices, even though the price of Solana kind of skyrocketed in the past week. I think it's a good thing. And then yeah, Joe, the developer from the Helium Foundation here, like you mentioned, Kenan, we had a good talk today, and I'm getting to a tunnel now. But I'm not gonna be very long because you know
You gotta
I'll
go.
try to enjoy
I
life
like that
here.
the guy behind you is
But
getting famous and doesn't know it.
rock on, guys. I'll be
Yeah,
watching here. I won't bother.
Cool.
tell the
All
bus
right,
to say hi. We're live streaming here.
buddy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Holla. Cool.
Oh,
cheers,
it's
guys.
packed.
All right, buddy.
Love it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Oh, that's funny. Let's see if I can get rid of that thing. Cool. I mean, that reminds me of being excited at Solana Breakpoint last year, cruising around Lisbon. I was just seeing like all the people there. Everybody's building something. A bunch of crypto nerds figuring shit out. Pretty fucking cool.
Yep, I've definitely got the FOMO
Yeah.
hearing about all this stuff through Twitter or internal channel or whatever stuff going on. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
always good stuff that comes out of that. Yeah, like I guess as a recap, last year I was introduced to the Sphere team that ended up building the data credit portal for Helium.
That's right.
So yeah, there's some cool cool connects that come out of that. We just added Jupiter swaps to the Helium wallet app.
Yeah.
Those are the sorts of you know cool relationships that make that stuff possible. So
Yeah.
big,
Yeah. Yeah.
the big trademark of composability, right, on blockchain. That's kind of what make all this stuff work.
That's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. Let's see. Why aren't we all watching Breakpoint live stream? I'd like to think, Siegfried, that occasionally it's nice to take a break from Breakpoint and check in.
Only happens one time a year.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's funny every week for the past couple weeks I've been like, do I really need to keep doing State of the Network? Is it that important? Then I get to the morning, I'm like, oh, cool. I get to go see all my buddies and hang out with Joey and see what's going on. I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'll keep doing it for another week.
Yeah. Well,
Every Tuesday,
I mean,
I'm
we've
like, fuck this.
yeah. I get it. Every Tuesday I'm like, oh, what am I going to talk about tomorrow? Because
Yeah.
I get so caught up in the like operation of stuff that it's hard to like pull back and like understand what's actually like publicly interesting and
Yeah.
some of the stuff so in the weeds.
Let's see. I saw Relay launched their new Hotspot Explorer. So that's pretty cool. It's like, let's see if I can dig up the link here and drop it in chat.
Yeah, that was gosh, that's also a long time coming. I met with Elijah months ago. He
Okay.
came out to the Bay Area. I grabbed coffee with him. We chatted for like 4 hours, I think, and just talked about all the sort of approaches that he's looking at in the DePIN space and as it's related to Helium. And so it was exciting to be able to like ideate this thing where he could build an Explorer and we start to plug it into the Helium Explorer, into the wallet app, like all this other stuff. And so that's this sort of idea coming to fruition. And I really like his approach here. Him and his team put this thing together that it's basically really lightweight. And so we've got a couple of options in the Explorer space now. There's the Moken Explorer, there's
Yep.
Hotspotty, there's Helium Geek, which is sort of the dedicated app,
Yep.
which I think will be interesting to think about how that comes into the fold there.
Yeah.
Um, and they all sort of serve different purposes and they all have like their strong points. And sometimes you just want to see where a hotspot is, or if it's online or whatever. Um, and I think the Relay Explorer hits like a really strong point for just, quick overview of rewards, things like that. And it loads super fast, which is great.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's definitely different than we were a year ago or 2 years ago because that used to be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Cool. And I've enjoyed my time hanging out with Elijah. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's around your neighborhood, I think. So
he's in my neck
yeah,
of the woods. Yeah.
caught up with him. Yeah.
And Relay Wireless is built Siegfried to specifically it was built for like large scale deployers. So I think there's probably some nice stuff in there for us little guys, but it was built for the big dogs, which is cool. I mean, it's a nice signal to me that there are going to be more and more of these large fleets coming and using the network. It's going to be less and less the DIY stuff, where that's how it has to be at the start. It's got to be a bunch of kind of geeks and nerds figuring stuff out. But if we want this thing to be successful, we got to include the bigger fish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And hopefully, one of the theories here is that by providing this sort of lightweight Explorer as a free service, he can sort of make himself more visible to all of the other big deployers that might be looking for hotspot management, which I think is also free. Like it, don't quote me on that, but
yeah, Joey
he's
guarantees that it's free.
yeah, yeah,
And then we
under
got
Nick's
this.
credit card.
Yeah. Just fucking bill me later.
Yeah,
We got this is pretty big news here. You've been talking about this for a while. I saw they made the announcement, making it
yeah.
official.
God, was that this past week?
I
It's hard
think
to
so.
keep
Yeah.
track when this stuff lands.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so data-only hotspots are fully working now. You can onboard and assert the location of a data-only hotspot, and so that's a really great unlock for largely what we've been seeing a lot of interest is businesses that are trying to use Helium and have a
Yep.
couple of gateways already. They just need to sort of quickly integrate. They don't have a net ID, like whatever the story is. They're not
They
going to
don't
do
mess with.
roaming. They
Yep.
just want to make it work. So yeah, this is actually a super important like strategic unlock for you know more users on the network, also more coverage. So it's kind of a cool double win there.
Badass. What's the Proto Maps news? I think that might have come out the same day we did this last time, but it's like this switch to the core devs transition to Proto Maps last month. So it might be a little bit delayed,
Yeah,
but that was in the announcements.
yeah. Well, so we did a sort of just rough announcement, said like, hey, we've switched over to Proto Maps, but then Matthew and our team here put together an article that sort of talked about the process and
Okay.
tips along the way. But the cool thing there is we used to pay Mapbox boatloads of money for basically something that is trivial, like or rather, Proto Maps makes trivial.
Yeah.
Um, Maps are basically just one big file, and you just pull little chunks of it down, and you get a map, right? And so we were paying on the order of
A lot of
multiple
money.
tens of thousands of dollars a month
Yeah.
at points.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Daniel at Hotspotty can commiserate with that. They also migrated to Proto Maps. Actually, they pulled the trigger on that before we did.
Yeah.
So I was all excited about it. I started telling everyone about Proto Maps, and then yeah, Daniel led the way for us there.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, so we've migrated our Explorer to that, and then there's a couple of other things that we can do, start thinking about maps in the wallet app, like start thinking about maps in like really anything, just because it's a lot less of a burden to start thinking about that from a sort of product perspective.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. I haven't done any sensor work recently. I've been busy with some other projects. What's going on in Sensorland? Are you getting excited to meet anyone in particular in Barcelona? Or you're like, I'm going straight to booth 419 or whatever it is?
Yeah, we're actually going to have a meeting today where we've got this massive spreadsheet, I think, in the works of folks that we're going to chat with.
Okay.
I want to follow up with a bunch of folks that I've met at previous events. So, like seeing folks from LoRaWAN World Expo, right?
Yep.
We're hitting that European contingent again.
Yep.
Um, so, following up with like other smart city builders. There's like Kenio in the Netherlands that builds a ton of smart city stuff. We'll hit them up, tell them what we're up to, tell them we're still here, like, all that standard stuff.
I was just told that the Netherlands has more early adopters than anywhere else in the world, and that they're more technologically advanced, I don't know, than anywhere else. And I raised my eyebrow a little bit, and the guy's like, no, 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 it's like America's not first. I was like, all right, I'm not going to go to blows on this one. But it was a funny thing to think of that place, because it's known for being super square people. We're just like, yep, this is the box that we fit in. This is how we do it. This is what we do. And also known for this like really flexible thinking that they should have the whatever the highest density of sensors or most technologically advanced. So kind of cool.
Yeah, no, we see a ton of deployments there. But yeah, at Teague's point, that's where a lot of these folks started building LoRaWAN stuff, TTN and all that out there. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And I think they have more weather stations per air, like as far as density, than anywhere else in the world. Which is funny to me because it's flat. It's like, fuck, you could put up one station, you pretty much cover the whole country. But
sure.
I'm sure they don't appreciate that joke.
Yeah. Well, speaking of weather stations, I think you've got some news this week, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it was this week or last week we put it out, but Goldhawks got brought on to help WeatherXM with their community management in the interim while they find someone else, because their last community manager had just left. So I kind of stepped in for at least a couple weeks to help them out and help build the position for the next person. I just talked to the guy who's coming in, who's probably going to fill it more full-time and focus on it more. And then my guess is I'll help out with biz dev and community kind of outreach stuff. So, but yeah,
Cool.
exciting
I've
stuff.
actually been chatting with a company that may end up being a WeatherXM user. And so I shared, like, right around the time I started chatting with them, WeatherXM had opened their API up, so you could sort of like query all the data for all of the, distributed gateways or stations, I guess. So used to saying gateway.
Yeah.
But they want basically as close to real time and sort of frequent barometric pressure sensing
Okay.
and like wind speed.
Yeah.
And so they do a bunch of like predictive stuff for energy production, and it's sort of important to their process. So it could be a cool thing. I think there's big like empty spots, so like they need more deployments in Texas and like all these places where this stuff happens. But
Yeah.
they're kind of excited about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, just learning about the business of weather is now kind of my self-assigned job, is figuring out, just like I kind of tried to figure out the business of LoRaWAN, is now like, hey, who buys weather? Who are the big players? How much does weather data cost? And you can find some of this stuff in public that's it's pretty wild. I saw one place will give you all of the weather data for one point, so all the data that's been recorded for one station for 70 years for $15. And you're like, well, all right, there's probably not that much money in that. But if you want the same point and you want predictions, it's something like $52 a week. So it's like a huge change between, hey, we know exactly what happened versus this is what we think is going to happen. And the biggest consumers of weather data, as far as I can tell so far, are the businesses. The energy companies, right? Because for them, 1 or 2 degrees up or down is whatever, thousands or millions of barrels of oil or gas or whatever they're burning to keep it hot or cold. So
This
it
is
starts
like
getting good.
the the threshold where somebody turns their heater on or not kind of stuff,
Yeah, I mean,
like
if you
on
talk
large
to
scales. But,
yeah, and there's these, there's these energy traders who are everybody's trying to make a buck on some of the big stuff, and if you're working at huge volume, and you're
mhm.
covering all of the American Southwest or even Southern California, there's a lot of people here, and you can make some decent predictions and trade on information that other people don't have because you've got the weather data that they don't have. It starts to be super lucrative. Where I had always thought of weather being for selfishly paragliders, and like I know for a fact paragliders
Mm,
aren't going to pay a ton for weather. So
sure. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting
Use
because
the
I forget
free
it's like,
APIs for that.
well,
Huh.
I mean,
So
that's the
that's
thing is like, why would anyone pay for it when you can just go to weather.com? And so that's been my question is like, who pays for this stuff?
I mean, you see that even just when people are buying weather stations, right? Like, why do you have a weather station on your house? Like, weather.com tells me, or Weather Underground tells me my weather at my house or whatever. But
Yeah,
the thing that folks overlook is those are uh, interpolations of other people's weather stations. And weather, as you know, as a paraglider, tends to be hyperlocal. Like,
yeah,
there's very distinct differences from downtown to, you know, suburbs and everything in between.
yeah. I mean, where the station is, if it's in shade or sun, I mean, you can have. It's funny, you can have a different weather station reading between the one that's on the pole of my house and the one that's in the backyard of my neighbor.
Mhm.
So it makes it for me really interesting to think about. Okay, how do you um, make sure that the data you're getting is correct or an accurate reflection of what's going on? And as you get into weather and micrometeorology and the rest of it, you realize that it's not just the first 6 feet of air that most of us live in. It's all the way up to 30, 70,000 feet, and all
Mhm.
those things make a difference. So yeah. Let's see. Solar Jim in the chat. What's up, Solar Jim? We want to deploy DePIN in our solar inverters and battery ESS with weather and other IoT data. Super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shit. Let us know how we can help, Jim.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. I'll go back to weather with Siegfried. You grew up on a farm, local temperature and precipitation. I mean, here's the thing that I have a question about, and I don't have the answer. I think it exists. I just don't have it. Is why would a farmer who probably grew up in that place and maybe their folks grew up in that place, and so you've got a really good idea of kind of what's going to happen next with weather. Do they really need a weather station, um, or can they just look at the sky and kind of figure it out? And you can. There's a whole bunch of books on how do you tell weather naturally without a station. Um, but
I
it turns out
I
they probably
think
do.
that I think they do that. I always kind of had that same thing. It's like, how do you actually extract any actionable, you know, thing from this data?
Yeah.
And that the part that actually like crystallized this for me was the Green Metrics team doing their soil moisture sensors on golf courses,
Mm-hmm.
um, and basically realizing like they've got irrigation happening and they are literally just dumping out money if it rained the day before, right?
Yeah.
Like at that scale, that's amount of water, like you've got, you know, water boards and all sorts of like regulations that are keeping you in check. If you know it's going to rain, or if you know, on the predictive side, right? Or if you can measure how much it rained, or, you know, what your wind speeds are, or your humidity, you know, drawing moisture out of the soil or through your plants,
Yep.
um, all of that stuff goes into that, you know, that should be this dashboard that gives you that sort of holistic view of your farm
Yeah.
mixed in with the moisture sensors and all of that other stuff. And then your water system should be intelligent enough to dump just as much water as it needs to keep your plants growing at its optimal rate. Because otherwise, that stuff is real expensive, and the margins are slim
Yeah.
on farming. Is I think any, you know, farmer would tell you.
Yeah. The whole thing is it's just it's just like everything so fucking cool. I was looking into growing corn, and there's just different temperature ranges, and there are. I mean, it may not be degree by degree, but there are definitely temperature ranges. Hey, below this temperature, corn will not grow at all. At this temperature, it grows slowly. This is the optimum temperature. When it gets too high, it slows back down. this is when it stops and this is when it dies. And so you start to think, okay, well, if I can gather that information for a field, I can make predictions about what the corn harvest is going to be. And then it seems like a lot of this stuff always goes back to traders, whether it's energy traders or commodities traders. If you can make predictions about what kind of harvest you're going to have, you start to have an edge. So it's not necessarily the farmer who is the only one who profits. There's a whole ecosystem around this saying, hey, if there's a penny difference in 900 tons of corn,
Right.
that starts to get
Like you can know before the harvest is even upon you whether the price of corn is going to be double or,
Yep.
underwater. It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
And I think Travis was saying, working with the Open project, they're able to triple. I forget if it was the yield or the profit, but it was tripling something important as far as like measuring what's going on to your point, Joey, about what's going on in the soil, how much water is in there, etc. It's just measuring this stuff really levels things up. So, there's a video coming out on Friday from WeatherXM. They're talking about a new station they're coming out with, and one of the there's a little sneak preview. One of the things with this station is you could hook it up to a soil moisture sensor as well. So the current stations, there's no, as far as I know, there's no port. This one will have a port to say like, hey, you can plug whatever other sensor you want. Could be soil moisture, could be whatever it is, leaf wetness, leaf thickness, etc. into it. So it starts to get. Thank you, Travis. It was yield. It starts to get interesting where you start to see like, okay, well, we had this much rain. Here's how wet the soil is. Now you can make those predictions, and change those controls as you're talking about. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's our, network of builders that are going to build those interfaces and, make those insights as transparent as they can be. Because even as we talk about it, it's this nebulous thing, right? And you have to find ways to draw all of that data together in logical ways to make it valuable.
Yeah. I mean, and let's see. I'll do a couple other plugs for WeatherXM. When you have one of their stations, you get access to their algorithm that gives you a customized forecast for your location. So it's like, all right, now I know what's going to happen at my house, not what's happening at San Diego Airport, which is 8 miles away, but what's going on at my house, which is kind of cool. And I think it gets a lot cooler if you're actually using the data for something specific. So I put up a temporary station at a local paragliding site, and I don't think we've ever had one there before. And so now it's like, all right, we're getting a much better idea of not only when the wind comes in and the heat changes, but also how long it goes for and a forecast of what's going to happen tomorrow. And right now, San Diego is under Santa Ana conditions, so it's generally not good flying. But when it comes back, it should be super fun to be like, yeah, I can be there about 30 minutes before I thought I could be there and get in an extra 30 minutes of flying.
Yeah, totally.
So,
and yeah, I guess one of the other fun things is just like even having that log of, oh, that was a great day out there. And then you can go back and look at like, oh, here was my wind speeds, here was my conditions. You kind of learn from that too.
Yeah. And then building, putting other weather stations lower and higher because temperature changes with elevation and changes down in the valley where it's really protected from winds in a different way than up on the top of the mountains. So
WeatherXM needs to do, I think I've seen this at a NOAA weather station before. They have this thing. It's basically a laser that shoots straight up and gives them readings all throughout the atmosphere.
Yeah.
We got to get that on WeatherXM.
I've been asking them about that. So that's LiDAR, and then there's radar. So there's just two different things. And there's another one. There's all these like super expensive things. So that those things generally cost a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
But one of the questions I had for the WeatherXM team is how do we bring in different classes of weather predictors or weather measures? Because that one is super useful for figuring out what's going on, what are winds aloft. Is basically it's shooting lasers up, it's figuring out how fast the particles are moving back and forth at different elevations. And although a lot of us probably don't think about weather being different where we are versus 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 feet up, is it can change significantly in that elevation, and the wind directions can change really significantly. There can be shear wind shear at different levels, which starts to make things pretty interesting as far as predicting stuff. But how do you reward a station that's $300,000 versus a station that's $400?
Right. That's Oh, they just get 1,000x the reward, right? That's
Yeah,
the...
I don't know. Some of this stuff, there's some legal implications. Is I don't think there's Siegfried things. Yeah, yeah. You can't have, just due to U.S. securities law, you can't have something where you buy a group of people buy into something and it just makes them money for nothing without there being kind of restrictions around that. So it's not like you could do a group buy of a weather station as part of, or a radar as part of WeatherXM inherently, as far as I can tell, and then have people profit off that for doing nothing. That's the whole Orange Grove legal case thing. So yeah, there's a bunch of other sticky wickets to get through that are not just a collection of data, but it's been fucking fascinating. There's so much like technology going on. So you think about just airfields or airstrips, is they'll have all kinds of tech that maybe not be weather related. They've got this one thing that they put at the end of the runway, and it shoots a laser down like along the flight path out to the plane, and so it can tell the whatever tower operators if there's like another plane that they haven't seen in the flight path, right? Because you only want your plane coming down and landing, or one plane taking off, and so this thing will just like look down the runway and be like, hey, there's whatever, something that's not supposed to be there is flying through.
Huh. Interesting.
So
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be cool to see how this network evolves. It's been really exciting to, I guess, on like the WeatherXM side, they're like the Helium gateway, I think was a really big unlock for them. And it sort of like opened them up for like a lot of other users. And so it'll be fun to see how they sort of further explore that stuff. Like for me, it was the only reason I had like a weather station set up for a while, because I didn't have internet in my place for like a month.
Okay.
But I had Helium coverage. It was great. So yeah, it's cool where you can throw those things up.
It's super cool. It's been super useful for me to just be able to put one up, and if you want to move it, you move it. It's as long as there's Helium coverage there. In most of San Diego, there's Helium coverage. There are some places where there's not.
Yeah, you tuck down in the valleys, it's a little challenging, but if you're up on hilltops, you're usually pretty good.
Most of the time, yeah. We got one paragliding launch that's blocked by. It's up on a mountain, so it's got this ripping view, but it's blocked from like general signals from other Helium hotspots because it's out a little bit too far east. And so it looks like it's going to be good, but I took one out there and put it up there for a week or so, and it's like, didn't connect at all.
Nothing.
So
Yeah, I have noticed the WeatherXM payloads are a little bigger than most. I think they're running around 55 bytes. So a little more room
Is that
for
3 DCs then? Because it's 24 bytes
yeah,
per
I think
DC?
that would be right. Yeah.
So 48 is less than 55. There's
Yep.
my math just coming right in, super hot.
Yeah. Do it live. Yeah, no, that would be about 3, and then I think they fire them off every about 5 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Is it
Could
okay?
could be something else, but that's just my like really random like looking at my packet logs, not actually really
Yeah,
looking.
I'll have to check the one I've got, because I've got the one that's you can just see right there. That's the Wi-Fi one, the tiny little screen.
Mm. Yep.
That's the M5, and that's the one in the house. That, funnily enough, and confusingly for a lot of people, the box, the M5, is on Wi-Fi, but it communicates to the station with LoRa, not Helium though.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the classic LoRaWAN confusion.
same thing.
There's plenty of
Everyone
that
uses
out there.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's even more confusing that the body that oversees LoRaWAN is called the LoRa Alliance. That's just not confusing
makes it fun.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Hey, one thing I would like to hear about this year in Barcelona, if we circle back to that, is last year Saudi Arabia had basically the booth you'd expect the Saudis to have, like super opulent, giant, beautiful, all like really clean and pure. And they were talking about how they were making, I think it was Mecca, super like IoT enabled. And so because it's hot as fuck out there, they have this whole system of like, hey, these are when the big umbrellas come out and provide shade, and this is how we fire off the water to provide cooling effect, and everything is underground, and so when people are parking and moving, and because they have some ridiculous amount of people coming in and out of that place every day, and there's hotels underground, there's like shopping malls underground there. But I'd love to see if they're back this year and what their booth looks like this year, how much progress they've made.
Cool. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to try and do my little video updates like I did in
Oh yeah,
Tokyo
yep,
again. So I'll have to swing through. That's a good call out. We'll see what kind of stuff they're up to. Maybe
yeah,
I'll do a little clip on that.
yeah. No, that was super cool. I guess there's going to be a bunch of companies that weren't there or last year that were there last year that aren't there this year. There's this like camping company where they had like a cool little camper that basically was the center point for a campground. So you'd pull this camper up, set it up, and it had a shower and a big kind of kitchen and the rest of it. And you could put 20 or
Cool.
30 tents around it. And their idea was that you could then rent out the camper, kind of the central thing, and make it easy for
Yeah.
people to do
Oh,
the
that'd be
camping stuff.
awesome for like group camping and stuff.
Yeah,
Like if you're throwing an event and yeah,
yeah,
go out in the middle of a field.
yeah.
Huh,
Super cool
that's
stuff.
cool.
So
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what we encounter out there. Like LoRaWAN continues to surprise me. It seems like every month somebody's like, "Oh, check out this like whatever sensor." And I was like, "I didn't know you could even sense that." Like, who
yeah,
who would have thought? Um, I that electric fence sensor was one that's like it still kind of blows my mind because I just never really thought about it before. But you know,
yeah.
Amy on our BD team has one set up now. Like they're cool. Um,
Super cool.
so yeah, those will be fun conversations, and then we can kind of like get to play connect the dots on
Yeah,
the
maybe find
foundation
that
side.
parking guy that's like he's at the parking lots or the parking meters in San Francisco. He's like, yeah, but there's not really any LoRaWAN coverage in San Francisco. I was like, huh,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should we should talk. Um,
yeah.
the other thing I'd like to see is one thing Max and I noticed when we were walking around CES last year was a lot of people were saying, we're not doing LoRaWAN, we're doing NB-IoT. And I'd
Mhm.
love to see if that is still, or if you find the same kind of thing there, is a lot of folks are doing NB-IoT and not LoRaWAN, or if they're
Yeah,
going to switch or if they're just using it for different things. Because it was apparent enough to us that we're like, that's weird. Why are they doing that?
right.
So
Yeah, yeah. I've been getting to learn more about NB-IoT, um, and for certain things, it is the right thing to do. But I don't know. Still, Helium and LoRaWAN fits the niche for a bunch of this stuff in a way that I think is hard to compete with. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
we'll chat those folks up and kind of see where the details are.
yeah, yeah. No, it was an interesting thing. It's like, shit. There's, I've got. It's not even a deep technical expertise in LoRaWAN. Like I have the surface kind of knowledge of it, and then I didn't
Sure.
see what it, how it compares to NB-IoT. But
One of the cool things that I saw, we're seeing a lot more hybrid stuff. So it'll be like NB-IoT and LoRaWAN,
yeah,
or LoRaWAN and Sidewalk, or
yeah,
other stuff like that.
yep,
At RAC, they had at their booth in Japan
mm-hmm,
um, a LoRaWAN and cellular module together. And the cool thing is they could wake up the cellular chip to figure out what region that device was in, and
yep,
then it would configure for the joins, and then they could go over LoRaWAN. Um, and it's just because like it's easy to pick up a region on cellular. It's a little more heavy-handed as far as like
mm,
overhead goes, but
yeah.
wake it up, do what it needs to do, and then shut it off again. And it's just sort of dormant chip until you need to wake it up again.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. So it sounds like the combos or the mixtures of these things are going to be where it's at, for something that's like useful everywhere, which makes sense because, it's not like you drive a Formula One car on the highway to go get your groceries. Like it's a super cool car for going fast, but
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a kind of a cool analogy. But, it's more expensive to have two cars,
yeah.
but if you, or, to have that maybe multi-purpose
Oh, yeah.
Ferrari off-road vehicle, uh, I don't know, whatever, a
Yeah.
Baja like racer, but,
Baja
um,
Ferrari.
yeah, God, that's just a fun. I gotta go AI visualize that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's about the user experience and like the deployment ease and all of that stuff. So if it costs you an extra 20, $40 on your bill of materials, like it may just be worth it. Um,
Yeah.
and the more we see people going down that path, the cheaper that the bill of materials is going to get. Right? Semtech bought a cellular chip company, so I'd imagine we start seeing more of those sort of hybrid solutions. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what Amir was saying, and I've heard repeated a bunch, is that hardware is not only hard, it just takes time. And if we
Hmm.
think about where the explosion of helium was, it's now 2 years in the rear view. I was just looking at an old journal from 2021, and it's just like, this day I've got this consulting, and this day I've got like these 5 things, and this day is the next thing. And now we're totally different. And at the time, everyone just wanted to know how to put their helium hotspot up. And now it's much more like, hey, how do you use the thing? It may take another year or two to get deep in there and have the thing like actually be working and super easy to buy stuff. And I feel like maybe Joe, you and I are at ground zero. I certainly feel that way for IoT stuff. Is people ask me all the time, hey, where do I get a smart plug? Where do I get this thing that's lower? Where do I get XYZ? And I'm
Hmm.
still kind of scrambling. Usually I just go ask Travis, like, hey, Travis, where do you
Yeah.
get this thing? But
Yeah.
there still isn't like the Apple version of LoRaWAN yet.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard because the frankly the user stories aren't super well defined. It's like if
Yeah.
you buy that smart plug, are you are you me? Are you like an end user? Are you trying to plug this into Siri, or are you trying to run like you know a 10 building facility,
Right.
which is like an entirely different story. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting to think that right now we're just using smart plugs, but pretty clearly smart outlets are going to be, if they're not already being built into every building, they will be. And you can,
it
you
should
know,
be. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Yeah. I mean, I was so excited to see some of those solutions in Tokyo. It was like, oh, this just looks like an outlet. Like I don't have to think about it any differently, yet I can control this thing
Yeah.
or meter it remotely, like whatever I need to do. Um,
Yeah. And I think that, this is now more conceptual stuff, but you start thinking about the unlocks that happen when every outlet in your house, like all of the energy in your house, can be monitored and sent
mhm.
to, and maybe it's across all of your properties. If you have multiple properties or you have a big property, or even if you have like a
Mhm.
suburban, whatever, large yard in the garage, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have
All
a really
ADU.
granular idea of what's going on across all of your power usage. And it becomes easy. And at some point becomes standard to be like, oh yeah, my house uses, 6.214 kilowatts right now. It just went up to 6.215. Like what happened? And have some
Yeah.
little alert piece come on. So
Like we're starting to see more of those like smart panels. People
yeah,
are getting excited about those, right? And
yep,
it's like, oh, it'll tell you the load in each, you know, uh, room in your house or each
yep,
circuit, or it can sort of help, you know, balance amperage across, if you turn your dryer on or whatever.
yeah.
Um, but,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. When we were working
yeah,
with Anode a bunch, they were talking about that, um, and that was super exciting. But those are still as $5,000 to $7,000 to put one of those in. Like, is
yeah.
it?
I mean, and you're not going to do that yourself, like, nor should you. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
we could do it. I think you and I could do it in a weekend, um,
yeah,
and certainly my neighbor could do it. That guy knows. He's built a couple of houses. He can figure it out. But yeah, for the normal person, it's like you're not going to go buy a $5,000 panel, rip yours out, and put one in. So it's not there yet. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that it'll probably take another couple of years for it to, probably 10 years for it to be standard, that every house, like, oh, of course I know how much energy I use. Like, what kind of savage doesn't? So
yeah. But smart outlets are the thing that anyone can do. Like,
yep.
that's a 10-minute YouTube tutorial. It's not a bust out the rubber gloves and, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I put in a
Yeah.
couple switches around the house, and it's just not that hard. Like, it seems scary when you first start it. Then you're like, if you can put together an IKEA cabinet, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Won't bite you too hard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think
What's
what
the?
else is going on. The bridge, the helium bridge that we built. I just sent one off. There's a
Oh
guy
yeah.
who wants to sell these as a. So he's got this idea for a platform that sells prototypes. So instead of like Tindy, where you can buy, what have I got from fucking Tindy in my drawers? You can buy something that looks like pretty finished. Oh yeah, here, this like little Wi-Fi Marauder thing, right? So I bought
Hmm.
this thing. It comes with its own 3D printed case. It comes with its board. Like everything comes and it just works. Sure, you can or you can find all the plans anywhere and build it yourself, but just like I didn't want to spend the time to do that. So That's not really a prototype though. Like I expected when I got that I turned it on and maybe put in some passwords and it would work. This guy's idea is that you would buy more of a prototype. So you expect it to probably work, but also to give you access. And in the case of the Helium Bridge, now you don't have to go and buy all the different components. It just gets delivered as one thing, and then you can do whatever you want with it. It's kind of a cool idea is to buy like prototypes instead of beta.
It would be like a really, like a lot of times I find like a GitHub repo or something for some open project, and it's like, well, that's really cool, but I, it's going to be like $200 for me to like order all those parts in one PCB, like for a,
Yeah.
otherwise like fairly straightforward project.
Yeah.
It's like going grocery shopping to like, cook a beef Wellington. You're not just buying a beef Wellington, you're buying every other little like,
All the other shit for it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think there's something to be said, not for just the kits, but also for access, like early access to some of these devices. And I've seen there's a couple folks on Twitter that seem to do a pretty good job of this. They're saying like, hey, here's this PCB I've designed and I'll send it to you with a battery and this, that, and the other. You kind of put the rest of it together. I think this is a similar concept. So
That'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, keep us posted on that. I'd love to order one of those and play around with it a little bit. We actually, the Helium protocol report is up. I don't know if that's actually been announced yet
yeah.
for Q3.
Okay, let
You
me
can
see.
check that out. But there is a shout out in there for the Helium Bridge project. So cool to have that in there.
Badass.
Uh,
Yeah.
That might be an early demo because I don't think those comms have gone out.
Yeah. Travis is asking, are they get around certifications there?
For
FCC.
prototypey stuff, I think you kind of get to skip some of that.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, maybe I just sell it as components because the idea is that it's not just, the Helium Bridge. It's that anyone with a prototype and you've got whatever, maybe, I think we only ordered 5 boards. It might be 3 boards for the bridge.
Mhm.
So the expectation is like, no, there's not an unlimited amount of these things. There's 5 of them.
Right.
I've now sent off one to the guy who's running the store so he can play with it and check it out, kind of see how he wants to use it and maybe do some demo videos on it. Because that thing you can use to war drive, which is a cool idea because it
Oh, yeah.
picks everything up.
Sure. Yeah, you would just find other, whatever that protocol is, the
Yeah, RTL
433.
433. Yeah. As you
Yeah.
drive around, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Like I just picked up this weather station. I just picked up that soil moisture sensor. I just picked up this XYZ air purification or air quality sensor. You could probably
Garage
find
door openers.
Yeah. Gotta be
Yeah.
careful with that shit. And
Yeah.
man, on that front, Flipper Zero is just getting to be a real dangerous tool, which is kind of cool.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's all the same hardware, but nice little UI wrapped around it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that thing is rad. They've got something now that I just saw this the other day. There's a little app that you can load in there that'll crash an iPhone. So if you wanted to be a real asshole, you could go to a coffee shop, fire this thing up, and crash some iPhone over Bluetooth. It's like,
Wow.
with great power comes great responsibility and great frustration for a lot of people.
That'll be a little iPhone patch soon, probably.
Yeah. They said the only way they'd figured out to patch it now was to turn off Bluetooth, which is like, then you don't get to use your headphones. So
Yeah, that's no bueno.
yeah. Let's see what's Travis asking. Actively running general protocol decoders. I guess that's the thing with the bridge is it's built on that LilyGo, which is a little computer. You can program it however you want. I think the unique parts of that it's sitting on a board and it's got the CC 1101, like it's listening on 915 not LoRa and then retransmitting out to LoRaWAN to Helium. So Joey, you got something here. Anyone doing a tutorial video for a self-build DAT only hotspot?
Dude, only hotspot. Yeah, we could do something along those lines. I've done it like a half dozen times as I wrote those docs, so
Yeah.
people fly through that pretty quickly. The painful part to sort of talk through there is there's just like setting up a Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
because your mileage may vary on how you sort of approach that, but and of course, assuming you're using a Raspberry Pi, it's kind of a whole
So
other.
this is just a DIY hotspot. It's the old DIY hotspots, but it's data only.
Yep. Yeah, so it's actually the full end-to-end DIY experience. Just when you onboard that hotspot, you wouldn't, it was like the alpha code or something like that, except
Yeah.
now you're just going to onboard it directly, just like it was a full mining hotspot, except you're not a maker. So the only sort of flag that's going to work there is as a data only gateway.
Okay. And they said you said there's docs out there to build it, or there's just docs out there to say that it exists.
So I've got docs on what it is, first of
Mm-hmm.
all,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of why you'd set one up, the
Yep.
software that's involved, and then there's an end-to-end tutorial on onboarding a Raspberry Pi with a rack concentrator.
Okay. Cool.
Um, and so the key piece is actually sort of split out as its own document, which is around the onboarding and assertion part. And so basically, once you've got Gateway RS running on whatever that device is, you run a couple of commands through the Gateway RS program and the Helium wallet app, and you're basically good to go.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe that'd be a fun thing to do. Just
Yeah,
build.
yeah,
Add that to my long list of shit to do. To fuck around with.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I I'll sort of open invitation for folks on this call. I've got a box full of Raspberry Pis and concentrators. So if there's somebody that wants to make that video, hit me up. You know, we'll talk and see if I can get some hardware your direction, assuming you're in North America or something. Easy.
Yeah. 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 Huh. Yeah. I feel like there's plenty of people who are watching or will watch this that could totally do that. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. I mean,
I'd love
it's
to see that
DIY.
video.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because I know that on my GitHub for a while when I had the DIYs and I had a couple alpha codes, I just written instructions to myself on how to set up a Raspberry Pi because it's not hard. It's just you got to do these things in this order. Um,
I, I feel like the whole Raspbian, whatever excuse me, the OS is,
yeah.
it used to be super easy to like run it in kind of a headless way where you just SSH in and
Yep.
do all the stuff, but now like you have to, it's a pain in the butt. It was
Just
killing
because
me. I,
from
I
such.
just wanted to flash the thing and like hit it up, but all that stuff closed out by default. So
Huh.
yeah.
Well, it's some security issues. What's Bit Harvest Studio?
Yeah, I need details. Teague, you gotta hit me up with that Bit Harvest Studio project.
Stand by. Enhance. Uh, yeah. Unknown. Unknown.
Unified firmware or something. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. And I'm trying to think what else is going on. I see on the MetSci side we're still having some problems, like just getting things, making it work really easily. Specifically, the
Okay.
MQTT thing is that Paul has built this pretty nice way to go from HTTP, which is an easy integration, over to MQTT. Um,
Hmm.
but there's not like a way right now to run MQTT direct in the MetSci console.
Hmm.
Which for normal people doesn't fucking matter, but for us nerds, it's like I'd like to figure out this way to make it a little bit cleaner. So you'd run, I guess you run your own. You'd have to connect your own MQTT server somehow, and you can't do that or you can't do that easily because everything's already connected into the console. There's like,
Hmm.
if I'm understanding it right now, if I wanted to run one that was easily available to everyone, I'd have to run one for everybody, and anybody could have access
Hmm.
to it. And so that's a security hazard versus letting it be an account by account thing.
Right,
So
right. Um, yeah.
okay.
Oh, hopefully Paul's making some headway on that. Let's see.
Uh,
Oh, well, and there was an earlier question too. Somebody was asking about these things disappearing when they went into, I think it
oh
was
yeah, Siegfried
Siegfried.
was. Yeah.
Um, when they went into the parcel vans. Well, hitting Siegfried's question first, I guess the the disappearance inside the van could have a lot to do with antenna design. Um, T could talk to this in a lot more detail, but antennas like to have a little bit of like breathing room around them. They also like to have a little bit of like surface area to punch off of in terms of like emitting that signal.
Mm.
That's certainly a challenge when you're doing a printed circuit board on a flexible substrate that's paper thin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So there could be some antenna tuning opportunities there. Maybe it's just it's sort of an emission power thing. But then, yeah, going to this other question, the location stuff, uh, that is largely a factor. Well, there's a couple of factors. One, the rack sticker as configured would need to have basically multiple packet purchasing turned on. And otherwise, you're going to hit whatever gateway reports that payload first, and it's going to look like it's close to that gateway, regardless of what your RSSI and SNR is. Like you
Yep.
just can't really know. And then if you have that multiple packet purchasing turned on, you're still sort of at the whims. Like, if it goes into a truck and you're reporting a, negative 120 RSSI, it's hard to tell if it's right next to the warehouse because it's in a metal box or like on the floor of the postage truck or whatever. Um, yeah, there's challenges with that. When we talk about multilateration, the easiest story to tell today is like it's in the city. Like you generally kind of know a spot where it is. Where you start to get really, really accurate data is when you're reporting those like negative 80 RSSIs or negative 60 RSSIs. You're on the same block as that gateway.
Yeah.
So you can dial that circle in a lot tighter.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated topic, especially once you start getting into coverage modeling and all of the things having to do with the attenuation of, signal emitting from the device. But there's a bunch of cool work happening on that front. So I
Yeah.
expect that to get better over time.
And the crew over at TrackPack is doing a bunch of cool stuff. They just got their new net ID, so they're using that, which is awesome, and rolling onto Helium, if I'm understanding it right. So they just expanded like their ability.
Yep. Yeah, I think they've got an OUI that also got a little shout out, I believe, in the protocol report. There's been a bunch of new OUI owners, whether they're on their own net IDs or doing other stuff. But it's cool to see the list of public operators getting longer on docs too. So it's not just you and Paul and
fuck those people, get them off. I need to make my money. Actually,
yeah,
we've got a couple more people buying stuff pretty regularly, which has been surprising. I didn't think it was going to happen, but yeah,
good.
Doing okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I want to see that take off for you.
Yeah. It's been like a fun thing just to see how much work goes into it. I see on Paul's side where someone comes in, they're like, "Hey, how does this work?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let me ask Paul." And Paul's like, "Oh, sometimes like here's the docs, and sometimes like, oh, I didn't know that was a problem. Let's go fix it." So pretty cool to see how it's improving.
Yeah, and I try to send Paul leads as much as we can too. We oftentimes get folks that are like, we need to run our own, we have our own OUI, we need to do X, Y, or Z, and so they're finding a lot of value in his ability to like stand up a whole service, in a couple of clicks.
You just got to make sure it doesn't get hit by a bus. Like fucking lock that guy into like a stainless steel cage. Like don't let anything happen to him.
National treasure, global treasure, network treasure. But, yeah, cool. we'll get to hang out with him in Barcelona. It's always a good time. So.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. All right, dude. I think we can wrap this one. Thanks for coming on. Good to see you. Enjoy your trip to Barcelona, and
sure.
Yeah, fucking A. Enjoy the food and if you haven't been to Gaudi, what is it, Sagrada Familia?
Yes, I did do that last year. Okay. I'm going to be exhausted this entire time this trip. Big layover in Germany, so
okay.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But,
enjoy the food,
yeah,
at least.
Work trip. We'll do.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Cheers.
Loots.
Bye.